Welcome to Invest Well, Be Well, a podcast for wiser investing and stronger living. I'm Rusty Vanneman, longtime investment professional, and I'm joined each week by my co-host, Robin Murray.
Thanks, Rusty. I'm a storyteller and journalist, and I am so excited to explore the ideas, insights, and people shaping the intersection of performance and purpose.
This podcast is for thoughtful investors and driven professionals who want to grow in their portfolios and in their personal lives.
We'll talk long-term investing, behavioral finance, personal development, and what it takes to live and work with intention.
So let's get started. Let's invest well and be well together.
This podcast is brought to you by Main Management, LLC. Since 2002, Main has been recognized as an ETF strategist that combines an institutional process with the personalized service of a boutique firm. Our guest today is Eric Clarke. He's the founding CEO of Orion Advisor Tech, now retired, but still keeping pretty busy.
Definitely.
Yeah, great interview.
Well, our guest today is someone I have admired for years and somebody I was lucky to work with and for. He's definitely a true pioneer in Fintech, and he's one of the most respected leaders in the wealth management industry. Eric Clarke is the founder and former CEO of Orion, a company he built from the ground up into one of the most influential platforms of financial services. And I think under his leadership, Orion helped redefine how financial advisors use technology to serve clients. He blended innovation, behavioral finance, which he talks about in the interview, and a deep commitment to independence and purpose. Eric's story isn't just about business success, it's also about thoughtful leadership, staying grounded through growth, and knowing when it's time to step away and invest in a new chapter of life. He's also somebody who has taken care of himself and everybody around him. Today, we talk about a bunch of things. We talk about the future of advice, leading with purpose, and how Eric is living well and investing well after decades at the helm. What were some of your key takeaways?
Well, I just thought it was great to hear him talk about leadership. His father was such an influential person in the whole entire company and for all of his kids who took on the different branches, and it had led to that great culture that we know at Orion. But just hearing him talking about working side by side with his team and that a leader is there to support the team, I thought was just a really good take. And that kind of idea of servant leadership seems to be such a core principle at Orion. So yeah, he's a pretty cool guy to talk to.
Something he definitely did. Just a couple more takeaways for me is, I thought it was interesting, and he talked about how the investment problem has been solved, but the investor problem has not. So that's why financial advisors are so important, why behavioral finance is so important. He also talked about AI, something that he's really passionate about, and how it's going to help advisors in so many ways. But I think also he just kind of mentioned how advisors are still needed. You still need that human touch, but AI is really going to help advisors in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting stuff.
Well, let's get to it.
Well, Eric, welcome to Invest Well, Be Well. It's great to have you here.
Great. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Rusty. I'm excited to be here.
And we're excited too. And to get this excitement really going, we're bringing over a tradition from our old podcast, and we need a walk-up song.
Well, it would have to be Beautiful Day by U2, because that's exactly what this is. I'm out in Park City, Utah today, woke up, got in a really nice long hike, and it is a beautiful day. Excited for what's ahead, excited for the holiday, and great to spend some time with you both.
Great band and one of their great songs too. Nice.
That's right. All right. Well, Eric, let's talk about you a little bit. So you've had a really fascinating journey in your career, founding Orion, leading it for more than 2 decades. What originally inspired you to create the Orion platform, and how did your personal values shape the company's mission?
Orion was really born out of necessity more than anything else. Our family had a growing RIA business. I had grown up working in that business, helping out wherever I could. I think my first job was changing the light bulbs out on the stock ticker sign, that let everybody know what the S&P and the Dow had done for the day. Worked my way up from that to cleaning the office, at the end of the day when I'd get out of high school, and then had all kinds of roles at that firm. But when I was done with graduate school, Robin, we had hit an inflection point of our growth where we couldn't continue to grow the firm without having better technology, better processes to support the scale that the business was demanding at that time. It was in the mid to late 90s, and we had right at $1 billion of assets as a fee-only SEC-registered RIA. And we found ourselves in a really unique position that really put us in a bit of a bind. But as I look back today, some 25 to 30 years later, it ended up being one of life's greatest opportunities, certainly for me. And we had an opportunity to not only create Orion, but take those values that our father had instilled in us as we were running a family business and take those forward and see what we could do with that. Certainly, we entered the market at a time where there was great opportunity from a technology perspective. Things were just starting to shift from installed-based software systems to doing business on the internet. And so we started Orion as a web-based business and would offer a service on top of our technology to help complement, maybe some areas where we hadn't fully developed the technology. And we were off and running, in December of 99 is when we split the businesses apart and created the company that today is Orion.
So Eric, Orion's culture was truly special and unique. As Orion grew, how did you maintain a culture centered around purpose and service, particularly in such a fast-moving and tech-driven industry?
One of the things that my father used to tell us when we were growing up and involved in different businesses, even outside of the family RIA business, is he would tell us, hey, don't ever ask someone to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. And in essence, he installed, servant leadership value inside of us, as well as our business, our family business right away. And, when my father was running the business, it never really felt like we were working for him as much as he was there to be supportive of us. And that is definitely a value, if you have, that was instilled in me early on, and something that I tried to carry forward in years that I had the opportunity and privilege to run the Orion business. And, wherever I could, sometimes maybe even annoyingly so, I would be willing to roll up my sleeves and brainstorm with the team or work side by side with them to help them accomplish a task. Running a technology business, a lot of the updates that we did were on evenings, weekends, holidays, because we wanted to make sure our application was up and running during market hours. And so I would be working side by side with my team to make those updates, dialing into Zoom meetings or going into the office. I wasn't the one in charge of, say, DevOps and rolling out that update, but wanted the team to know that I was there to support and be helpful any way that I could, even if it meant just, going and picking up the pizzas or doing whatever I could to be supportive of what they were doing to help us grow and support our business and support the advisors that we serve.
Yeah. So Orion has served so many financial advisors so well for so many years. So let's talk about financial advisors. And how do you see the role of the financial advisor evolving over, let's say, the next decade? What skills or tools do you think will be most critical?
Historically, our industry has really leaned on those of us with accounting and finance background, numbers-oriented degrees. And I think as we go forward, we're going to see a lot more value come from social science degrees, people that are very familiar with being able to empathize and understand the client's situation, being able to help them navigate different emotions that you experience as an investor. And in essence, I think BFI, if you will, behavioral finance is going to play an even larger role in our business as we go forward. At the same time that we have this evolution of, if you will, because in large part, I like to say, we've solved the investment problem and now we're working at solving the investor problem. And as we look forward, we also can't ignore the impact that AI is going to have in our business. It's going to impact every part of our business. And I think it presents an equal, if not greater, opportunity that I had helping firms transition from install-based systems to leveraging the web. As we go forward, we're going to be able to introduce efficiencies and even help advisors be more human-like by leveraging AI than we ever have experienced in the past. And it's coming at a wonderful time when advisors are struggling to add additional scale, provide additional services, and support the growth that they're experiencing. AI will really step in and eliminate, I think, a lot of the busy work that our industry tends to get mired in from time to time.
So which areas of fintech or wealth tech are you most excited about right now? And how do you separate enduring innovation, talking about AI, how do you separate enduring innovation from hype?
When I'd sit down with an advisor and talk to them about their technology roadmap and their tech strategy, I would encourage them to focus on making sure that technology accomplished one of two objectives for them. One, it either helps them create and extend a better client experience. It helped them extend their brand experience out to that client to help them win more prospects, certainly service their clients better, improve their retention numbers, those types of things. But the second thing that I would really encourage them to lean on is driving operational efficiency so that you can widen your margins out as you continue to grow that top line revenue. So, if a firm is implementing technology, looking to change technology, I'd always encourage advisors to really lean in on those two items. Hey, what is this going to do to help us extend our brand, extend that experience that we want our clients to have? And in an ideal scenario, technology can help with that. Or how is it going to help us run a more efficient business and be able to improve our KPI of, say, number of households per advisor that our firm can serve today?
This episode of Invest Well, Be Well is brought to you by Main Management LLC, a pioneer in actively managed ETFs since 2002. Main Management starts with a clear fiduciary focus, delivering the transparency and personal attention you'd expect from a boutique firm. They provide financial advisors with solutions, not products. Main also believes investors should keep more of what they earn, emphasizing net of fee after-tax performance to help clients retain more of their returns. I've known Main Management for years. I've met thousands of managers over the course of my career, and one quality I really value: they invest alongside their clients. They eat their own cooking. Over 10% of the assets they manage are their own partner assets, and more than half of the firm are partners themselves. That says a lot. To learn more about Main strategies, including buy right hedged equity, U.S. sector rotation, thematic innovation, and all asset models, please visit their website at mainmgt.com. I've got a big question here. So after leading Orion for so many years, being the face and the voice, being the founder and the leader, how has stepping back and leaving Orion, what has it taught you about leadership, identity, and reinvention?
Well, as I look back, I certainly made more than my fair share of mistakes. I realize, I think now more than ever, what an incredible team that I had around me, a team of leaders that were helping me take the vision that I had for the business and implement it. I can't thank those team members enough for sticking with me for a number of years and really helping me to grow the business. I also look back and I can't help but acknowledge that we had a fair bit of luck come our way as well. And we found ourselves in position to win. At times, I think, Rusty, more than our fair share of business. And, certainly looking back, maybe you only remember the good things or the high points, but I certainly have a lot of gratitude as I look back at, the success that we enjoyed over the years. I have gratitude to the advisors that trusted us early on Rick Edelman's business was probably Rick's signature was the first big advisor that we had signed. And, that took a lot of trust from him and his team to let this tech startup out of Omaha, Nebraska, help him scale his business. And we learned so much from the incredible firms that we had an opportunity to do business with and to serve. And, those advisors, especially those that signed with us early on, really, I have immense gratitude that, as I look back, I think, gosh, that we were really, really fortunate to have the trust from those advisors in our business that we did, because we wouldn't have gotten to where, Orion Business is at today without them. And it's not just their trust that they place in us, but it was the constant feedback and willingness on their part to make an investment in our business as far as the intellectual capital goes that allowed us to really see what we needed to improve and what changes we needed to make to the technology over time.
I want to follow up on something you said. You're talking about a lot of the high times, but of course, there are also low times. Successful journeys always have bumps in the road. So what were some of the most difficult periods of your leadership journey? But most importantly, how did you maintain perspective and resilience during those times?
Running every business isn't always straight up and to the right, so to speak. In many days, you feel like you've taken a couple of steps back and maybe only one step forward. And being an entrepreneur it's hard. It's hard to do a startup. It takes much longer, at least in our case, for the business to gain traction than what I had initially expected. And it took a lot of perseverance. But as you find yourself in those difficult moments, I also think that you need to remember that these are some of life's greatest opportunities as well. And certainly as I look back at the time, I can remember feeling very frustrated that we couldn't get technology off the shelf to help us grow and expand our business. I can remember being frustrated that we couldn't develop the technology fast enough. I can remember being frustrated that the tech wasn't performing in the way that we wanted it to from a speed perspective. And so all of those things that were difficult as we were building and growing the Orion business that were frustrating, they were also opportunities, because when you solve those challenges your competitors will face as well. And hopefully you and your team were coming up with ways to innovate and create some opportunities to win, have some additional competitive moats around the business. But certainly looking back, it was important during those times to maintain a sense of perspective, a sense of balance. Every day I would try and get up and have some other goals other than just making Orion great. I'd try to set some physical goals or some family goals, those types of things, to help me stay balanced and make sure that my perspective wasn't just narrowly focused on the business, which, if I'm being completely honest, it was easy for me to do that, to where some days, maybe more so than others, I'd look back and I'd say, gosh, I'm not doing a good job in this area or that area, and I need to kind of refocus, reprioritize as I go forward.
So you mentioned your dad as a major influence with you and your leadership style. So who were some of those other mentors that really shaped your thinking, and what advice do you now find yourself passing on most often to the next generation of leaders?
Yeah, it's the one thing that I have had some additional time to do since retiring is work with some other tech startups, work with some other leaders, kind of some next gen leaders in this business and outside of this business. And I have absolutely enjoyed their creativity, their perspective. And I think, Robin, honestly, I'm learning more from them than certainly I'm willing to, say that I am able to pass along to them. But as I look at those younger leaders, I really admire their creativity, their sense of, I guess, their attitude that, just looking at the opportunity ahead and being so optimistic. I think sometimes as we age, we just get a little bit jaded, or we think to ourselves, hey, I've been there, done that. This is how this is going to go. And it doesn't always play out that way. And as we try and mentor that next generation, at least for me, it's been most important to listen and just see what I can learn from them to help me be better as I go forward. But as I look back, certainly my father was a great mentor for me. But beyond that, the advisors that we were doing business with became personal friends and mentors. Certainly, there were individuals that were part of my team that I would go to and lean on often and get some very honest feedback as to some things that were blind spots, and the way that I was going about solving a problem. And, I think if I were to go back and maybe tell myself, hey, what would I do differently? I would certainly have been a much better listener, and as opposed to, looking to say drive forward in a certain direction, I definitely would have paid attention to what was going on around me a little bit differently than I did.
So the other part of this podcast, Invest Well, Be Well, is of course the Be Well part. So how did you stay grounded, stay energized when you were, running this business that can really take a toll? It's a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. So did you have wellness practices or routines that really helped you in those tough moments?
Yeah, so I have run, I think it's 15 marathons at this point. I've done 9 of those with my wife. Or actually, I should say 8 of them. There was one that she did that I didn't join her on. So, I have been an avid runner and hiker. Rusty and I have been on a lot of these hikes together with Skip Schweiss and Chip Rome, really taking advantage of opportunities that would come up and say, hey, I'll go for it. I'll go and spend some time outside with some friends and go hike and explore areas that, I certainly wouldn't have gone to otherwise. And, as I do that, I'll tell you, even this morning, having hiked out here in Park City, I absolutely get re-energized and more excitement, for not just the day, but for the future and the opportunities that lie ahead.
So Eric, now that you've transitioned out of day-to-day leadership, how do you define success? So what are you investing in now, mentally, physically, or spiritually, to elevate your own life?
I certainly have a lot more time to invest in the relationships that matter the most, whether that's family or friends or individuals that I can help mentor and guide. I've had an absolute blast spending more of my time being able to connect in a way that previously I haven't been able to with those relationships. Definitely traveled a lot more. My wife and I just got back from Scotland, and we had a great trip over there. We were cycling about 25 to 50 miles a day for a week, and we had a blast. And I certainly hadn't done anything like that previously. And so just taking the time to do those types of things, investing in those family relationships and friend relationships has been rewarding in a whole new way.
So Eric, I've learned so much from you over the years, and I'm curious, I don't know if I've ever asked you this question, but what's a book or books that have influenced you deeply?
Yeah, so, about, I would say a little bit over a year ago, had an opportunity to get an early release of Dr. Daniel Crosby's new book, The Soul of Wealth. And the way that he put that book together as a series of, I believe there are 50 short essays, it resonated with me immediately, Rusty, and it's something that I've gone back to and read over and over, just different chapters. I've shared parts of it, with my kids as they've encountered different opportunities. It's been a blast. The impact that book has had on our family, even over the past years, has been amazing. So
I totally agree. We actually had Dr. Crosby on an earlier podcast, and I even told him one thing that I do with my wife, Marla, is we'll read a chapter together and talk about it. It's a pretty cool thing to do.
That's awesome. Well, I think that's all we have for you, Eric. Thank you so much for coming on today. It was great to chat with you. Before you go, how can our listeners stay in touch and learn more about what you're doing?
Certainly feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. My Orion email is still, available as well. Just Eric, ERIC at orion.com. I'd love to hear from those of us that are working in this industry. If I can be of help in any way to the listeners, happy to do it. Robin and Rusty, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it's great to see you and talk to you and always hear your words of wisdom. And I really look forward to hiking with you on future trails.
Looking forward to it.
We'll be back next week. Thanks for listening to Invest Well, Be Well, and let us know what you think. And if you like what you hear, don't forget to subscribe. This podcast is hosted by Rusty Vanneman and Robin Murray and produced by Garrett Crosby. Well, we'll be back next week. Thanks for listening to Invest Well, Be Well. And hey, if you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe.
If you have feedback, guest suggestions, or just want to connect, please visit my website, rustysbridge.com, or email me directly at rusty@rustysbridge.com. Until next time, invest well and be well.